Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Budget Committee. Today is Wednesday, December the 10th at a little after 9, and we're at the County Building. The Budget Committee this year is comprised of Councillor Robb, Councillor Smybert, who is joining us virtually, and Councillor Graham, and myself, Sue Clark. We acknowledge that the land we stand upon today is a traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Lampewauk peoples who have long-standing relationships to the land, water, and region of southwestern Ontario. The local First Nation communities of this area include Chippewa of the Thames First Nation, Oneida Nation of the Thames First Nation, and Munsee Delaware Nation. We acknowledge the treaties that are specific to this area. Treaty 2, McKee Purchase, Treaty 3, Between the Lakes Purchase, Treaty 6, London Township Purchase, Treaty 21, Longwoods Purchase, Treaty 29, Huron Tract Purchase. We value the significant contributions both in the past and the present to local and regional First Nations of Turtle Island. We acknowledge historic and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we affirm our commitment to honoring Indigenous voices, nations, and cultures, and to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none, then I'll turn the meeting over to our CAO, Paul Shipley, for his comments and direction at this point.
Thank you very much. We're all very appreciative for everyone being able to attend in person or virtually, and we really look forward to going through this process as a team. I just want to point out, obviously, there's been a significant change in our budget process, and I want to acknowledge the senior leadership team around the Horseshoe for all the effort they put into this, and all the senior leadership team's team members. There's a significant amount of work, and we're excited to do this a little bit differently this year. So we'll run through this presentation, and as we're going through it, once we get to the service areas, we're happy to answer any specific questions about those service areas. Each team leader will go through their service area at a high level, and we'll lead off with a little overarching commentary first. So in regards to the framework for today, we'll run through sort of the context, what this budget does, how it really changes in practice from previous budgets, some themes on service pressures, some key enhancements, and then the capital program, asset management alignment, our reserve position, council budget resolutions for all the directions that were given throughout the year that have budget implications, and then those service area snapshots. So moving on, what this budget does, it really does a few fundamental things. It resets the county's financial foundation. So historically, Middlesex County has relied on $3+ million a year in reserves and surplus, which equates to on average about 6.3% of the current levy to mitigate the overall levy increase. And this was brought up by Councillor Smybert in previous years. And what we've done as a team is try to find ways to aggressively remove that so that there's true presentation of what the costs are for each service area. And really, in the long run, that stabilizes the operating budget and it protects those core services. The direction from council was to maintain levels of service and present that. So we're excited to run through these service areas and present that. And then also there's targeted investments where it matters most, where we can make a difference in economic development, further supporting diversification of our industrial and commercial tax base, in library services, and early on really driving home those community impacts. And then advances infrastructure renewal. Middlesex County, thanks to the previous leadership of Chris Cheney and our transportation team largely, as we have 80% transportation infrastructure, and the foresight of council, we really are at a good place in terms to life cycle funding. So that this continues that process. And then also just positions the county for the future. So this budget sort of reestablishes the base and allows the county to look forward and be responsive to environmental changes. So as a budget overview, the total budget is just over $200 million now in cumulative expenses. Approximately $170 million of that is operating. about 27.2 million is capital, and the draft levy increase as presented is 3.78%. I will point out that our friends at MPACT further increased the levy for the MPACT services in 2026. So once we're all said and done, as is, we're at 3.87. So there's a little inversion there because MPAC increased their annual levy by 54,000 more than what we are expecting for a cumulative increase of just under 100,000. But overall, that's where we're at with some targeted enhancements. And I think it's important before we go through and look at the service areas to highlight how we got to that versus what was presented historically. It really reflects aggressive revenue and expense projections. So when we say that on the revenue side, wherever we have a grant or a revenue from a third party, we've projected that revenue at the upper limit. So maximizing that revenue of the upper reasonable limit. And when we look at expenses, we've really cut down to the bone and made those as targeted and low as possible. So that deficit has that gap between the two has allowed us to get to an initial 3.78 or 3.87. And then really we've removed sort of the not sustainable reserve contributions and surplus contributions to our operating budget, subject to one caveat on that for a one-time expense associated with the health unit. Throughout each service area, each leader will identify some of the pressures, but there's key themes that are really reflected through all the service areas. Obviously, inflationary cost escalation, workforce and labor market dynamics. So council's made it a strategic priority for that employee value proposition. And in 2025, the county and NMLPS has went through a lot of labor relations processes. So those impacts are in there. Infrastructure renewal pressures, the cost of infrastructure is not going down, and the county has a lot of infrastructure. Legislative and regulatory demands, our friends in planning services have been subject to near endless and continuous planning changes throughout the year, so being responsive to those regulatory changes. Growth and community expectations. As our community continues to grow, there's higher level expectations and more expectations. So we tried to respond to those as a team. And then really just complexity of county service delivery with our integration with regional partners and just being responsive and more integrated with our locals, that adds a level of complexity. So those themes are throughout all service areas. So then the exciting parts that we'll just touch on briefly, and the service leaders will touch on when we get to that point, are some key enhancements. One that we're all really excited about is early on program expansion, evening and Saturday access. It's going to make a real difference with a ton of touch points and a lot of hours for families in our communities. Council recently approved the OTIF expansion of community transportation. So that's exciting to amalgamate all those routes into one system and enhance our partnerships with the City of London, City of St. Thomas, City of Sarnia, and some of the other exciting things happening under that new funding model where we were previously under the community transportation model. Kara and the team continue to drill down and deliver programs that will work to diversify our industrial and commercial tax base with the Economic Development Department. And specifically, the big one in that department is the launch of the Community Improvement Support Program with those tranches of funding for industrial, housing, and then continuing on the historic program. So that's exciting. The library board has done their budget and then presented the restoration of the manager of library services position, and also a master planning process to plan out long-term about how and where the county will continue to deliver library services. As we prepare for a move towards the end of 2026, we have a ton of records in this building that we need to get digitized. So we have a contract position that will support the majority of the service areas in getting those records into Laserfiche, both so we don't have to move them and also so they become part of our knowledge bank and support us in providing outcomes. And then our new director of human services, Joe, and his team have really done some amazing work across the human services portfolio with some targeted benefits in the community well-being enhancements area, a service area that was previously called other programs, but an area where Joe and his team are really making inroads and making a difference in our communities. When we get into capital, obviously every project is listed later in the budget, but some highlights of that is, again, 80% transportation focused. We're really drilling down Chris's team has done a great job in life cycle costing and itemizing our asset infrastructure, making sure that we're planning longer out and we can do some advocacy for those strategic major projects. We think of the Thorndale Bridge, and then make sure we're responsive to emerging needs. So that's 27.2 million and aligns fairly closely with our asset management plan. And that shows us we're at 92.1% of life cycle renewal funding coverage. So if you're between 90% and 110% funding, that shows you're doing a pretty good job. So kudos to the team for doing that and for council with the foresight. So we're excited on that. Now, at the same time, we're really preparing for those future life cycle peaks. And Chris and his team have been talking about this for over 10 years now, that the post-war era bridges and culverts are going to need replacement, and a bulk of them at one time. So we're going to have to get strategic on how we address that. But we're very close to being at 100% life cycle funding on the asset management plan, which is exciting. When you look at reserves and financial resilience, again, the county is in a very healthy position, and it's going to present options as you go forward and look to fund the new Governance Administration Center. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs presents general information and risk ratings for reserve levels, and the county is well within the low risk with the amount of reserves it has in comparison to the operating budget, and that would likely be further strengthened by year-end surplus. We present MLPS reserves separately, and they're in the moderate to high, but you also have to take into context how MLPS functions and how the capital is actually with the county. So when you do look at those reserves, you're really looking at WSIB liability, and Adam and the team are doing a great job with the MLPS board of mitigating that risk. And that, from our perspective, is really a lower risk long term because of those efforts that the team at MLPS has been doing. And again, we've taken reserves out of the operations budget. So throughout the year, council passed a number of resolutions. We won't go through every one of them, but we want to be direct in that every one of those resolutions was addressed within the budget. There's a section of the budget directly tied to this and outlines how this budget responds to that direction of council. So then what we'll do is we'll get into service areas, and I guess we'll start with governance, and I'll do just a quick overview on that. And Marcy, if you have anything to add. Overall, this budget is up 1%. And there's a few tweaks we did within this budget. Obviously, we continue to support efforts to implement the council's strategic plan, strengthen regional advocacy. Really, this term of council, there's been heightened awareness on working together with our regional partners and being proactive in our advocacy. And that's come through in our human services areas and a few other meetings. We're developing a great relationship with Minister Flack, so that's great. And then a few of the actual financial changes. Historically, we would budget for every member of council and library board member to maximize their potential expenses associated with conferences and conventions. That ultimately resulted in year-end surpluses. So what we've done is pare that back to closer to the rolling average of who has utilized that amount. So that reduced the overall budget a little bit. And then within the governance budget, there also is additional considerations for the the ITS onboarding of new council. So all that goes on with a new council, and then a councillor compensation review that we'll do in concert with updating our remuneration bylaw. So those are the high level impacts on governance, and it results in about, I think, a 1% overall change for that service area. So maybe we'd pause there if there's any governance questions you have. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next service area. I'm just going to rely on ITS to watch if Michelle has any questions. Perfect. Okay, that's good.
Actually, Councillor Rob has a question.
Thank you. Through the warden, Paul, you're talking about conference levels and all those type of things. I think it's a little bit outside the budget process, but still thinking about it. When we have councillors who are not running again and it's the last year of the term, I struggle with counties spending money for people to go to conferences when they're not going to run again. And it's not a knock on the person, but I know it's a little bit outside the budget, but it still does affect. And so I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you. Your comment doesn't surprise me because we spoke about it privately before, like the other day. Um, I think I agree with you. The only exception would be is if they're there for a delegation, but then if they're for a delegation that impacts their own municipality, the dime should be carried by their own municipality. But I'm not sure that this is a place to change that ruling.
I'm not really asking for a change, but I'm saying to bring it out there to discuss, I think maybe at the council level, to have a discussion.
Like as a takeaway, I think that's a good thing. Do you want to speak to that, Paul?
Yeah, that's okay. And is it okay if we kind of do a relaxed thing where like we can, yeah, okay, thanks. Not gonna through you, not through you every time. Yeah. Valid point, and I think you'll hear this a few times today on some things, is that we really tried to prepare the budget in accordance with the direction of council, and that was to maintain existing levels of service. So what you're talking about there absolutely could be something. Staff would respectfully recommend that would be something done at county council, and that would require changes to the remuneration bylaw and policy that outlines that, possibly to add a provision that sort of gives that caveat and conditions on final year conferences.
Yeah, okay. And I think that's a good takeaway to look at later on for the next term of council with the compensation review, as you've mentioned. Carry on, Paul.
Okay, so the next service area is CAO, and like we've really tried to break out every single service area. That's why you'll see these here. So overall, there's some adjustments to staffing related expenditures with the change in county organizational structures, and specifically with the changes at MLPS, it eliminated a cost recovery from MLPS as those organizational responsibilities are restructured. So the overall CAO budget is down, but the levy contribution is up. And then there also is a professional services allocation that is in there to sort of support in-year strategic and corporate initiatives requiring specialized expertise that we would go external for. So happy to answer any questions, but that's the highlight of that service area.
Any questions for Paul?
Marcy.
So in terms of opportunities for our department, we are focusing this year on continuing the transition to electronic document management. Our goal is to have all administrative departments fully operational in Laserfiche prior to the move to the new Governance and Administration Center in November. This involves rolling out records management training for all staff, which we have started and will continue throughout the first quarter of 2026. We're also focused on the optimizations that we can achieve through Laserfiche. For example, we recently launched electronic delegation request forms on our website. So members of the public can go to the website, complete the form, and once submitted, there is a workflow that notifies legislative services and automatically files the request in Laserfiche. This not only saves staff time, but also ensures proper record retention. So we'll continue to look for opportunities for this throughout 2026. There's opportunities like this throughout 2026 to streamline and improve our processes. The third opportunity listed there is around the 2026 election. We will begin gearing up for that early in the new year, working with the CAO and the senior management team to develop a comprehensive council orientation program for incoming county councilors. It's also an opportunity for us to collaborate with our local municipal partners. In terms of budget updates, Paul already mentioned this. We have included a new temporary records management assistant position to assist with our push to be fully digital prior to the end of the year. We've also asked for increases to training and development, as well as corporate branding, as we do budget extra for that when we have a new council coming in. That's for council jackets, that type of thing. And I think that covers the main highlights of my department. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Councillor Grantham?
Yeah, I think this is more or less on topic, but when you're digitizing the records, are you retaining the paper records?
Only the ones that we are required to maintain physical copies of. So bylaws we maintain and minutes, and then each department has specific things that they may have to keep physical copies of, but otherwise, no, they're destroyed in accordance with our records retention bylaw.
Any other questions? I have one. So for the temporary position to help with the records management, is that, does that fall under the salary line or is that going to be pulled up in the professional services?
It's
It's a
in
bit
the-
of a jump in the professional services.
It's in the salary line.
Okay, so can you speak to the jump in the professional service line? It goes from 34 to 60. It was 60 before. Oh, because that's to the, my apologies, that's to the end of September. Okay.
And I can just speak to that, though. That includes our integrity commissioner budget.
Oh, right.
So we have to have that in there in case we have any investigations.
Okay, thanks for clarifying, Paul.
Next up is human resources, and we're going to give Sandra a break and not make her do this on like day 6. So, yeah, the team, Rebecca and the team have been great in the interim, and Sandra's been awesome since she got here and is already diving headfirst into everything. So the human resources budget for the most part is a status quo. There's been enhancement to the recruitment and retention strategies and procedures. We're trying to expand our corporate training and development, including leadership development and succession planning. And then with our work environment, has to be intentional efforts to enhance the culture. So that's in there. And then the staffing expenditures reflect the positions that were added last year, transferring into full-time positions, which was always the intent. They were just previously budgeted for half a year the previous year. So we're excited about that and sort of leveraging some of our new technology and approaching HR with a fresh lens on that. And then in regards to specific dollars, this would be another one where overall, because of changes at MLPS within the budget, there's a slight reduction in the potential cost recovery from HR service. We currently have 2 staff over there, and then there was an allocation for some of our senior leadership over there. So we'll reflect movement and living with that as we go forward, but that reduction is in there, which is almost tied directly to the levy variance increase for 2026. And happy to answer any questions you may have on that department.
Are there any questions for Paul?
Just the word, I would say
Sorry,
that
go.
I do have some questions, but I think time will answer some of those questions as we move forward.
Okay.
So there is some questions with HR, but
Yeah, it's not the last call for each
that's what I mean.
category. So yeah,
In
just wanna
fairness,
put that
in
out there.
fairness,
There
we
will
gotta
be
give everyone a
opportunity.
chance. Yeah.
It might all come together. Thank you.
David, you're up.
Thanks. I apologize. I lost my voice. Talked a little too much this week. So I'm pleased to provide the brief overview of the legal services budget this year and some of the key drivers for 2026. So we've identified 3 major opportunities for 2026 in legal. So one is to continue to expand capacity for complex files, like on an internal county basis. 2 is to continue to strengthen service responsiveness. And the final one is to advance corporate risk management. So if you'll indulge me for a few minutes, I'll just go a little further into each of those. So for the first opportunities regarding the expansion of capacity for our complex files here at the county. So just for background, in legal, we have continued to see strong growth in legal demand across the organization, both at the upper tier and the local level. So this year, we were committed to using electronic software management to track every single file that came in legal. So we've opened 410 files in 2025 and logged about 5,000 hours for those files. So that's almost double where we were at this point last year. So that growth really has helped us refine our internal processes and build a strong operational rhythm baseline that can now afford us to, build a solid foundation. And now we're in a good position to take on more complex files here at the county, and with the ultimate goal of outsourcing less and keeping as much in-house as possible. And we've identified there's more corporate opportunities planning through the planning department and HR. So I think we're going to be targeting those 3 areas. The second opportunity briefly is just to continue strengthening service responsiveness. So with that demand that's increasing, we staying responsive is essential. We are meeting with each CEO about twice a year to create these like bespoke relationships. Each of you have your unique, each municipality has unique needs while they're all, you all need the same thing as well, which is responsiveness. And with that software I mentioned, we are improving our file intake to reduce bottlenecks in files. So with that centralized tracking system, it's really improved turnaround time. So that also is allowing us to focus our time on more complex files as well. So in 2026, we are going to keep enhancing these tools, the software, so our department can get clear direction and figure out next steps quickly, because we're able to now create patterns and find out how long certain types of files take, and we're able to create realistic turnaround times for our municipal folks. And then the final opportunity, just quickly, is just advancing corporate risk management. So as we stabilize capacity and responsiveness in our department, we're focusing more on reducing organizational risk. And one area we do that through is developing workshops. So we're developing. We did one in the summer, and I brought a report to council, and it was really well received. So we're going to be doing contract review, bylaw drafting, areas where the entire organization, upper here and local level, could benefit from. So we really do believe this will promote consistency, reduce downstream issues, and help staff address risk a little bit earlier. So in terms of the actual budget, so the service area budget update, we had a target in 2025 for our local revenue, and we have met it and exceeded it by about $100,000. So that the 2026 budget continues that trend with increased ties to higher file volumes and the expanded support we're providing. So I'm pleased to advise that. And in terms of my line items, it's pretty much status quo for the most part. There's no additional team members, and we are anticipating a higher revenue from that local level. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Any questions? Councillor Rob?
Thank you. Thank you, Warden. David, in the past, I haven't been the biggest supporter maybe of the legal services, but my thinking has gone 100% turned around. And that's to you and your team, how the job you're doing. My question is, do you feel you're going to be a victim of your own success? And I mean that in the right way, like with the amount of load that you're getting from the lower tiers and the upper tier as well, but from the lower tier as well. Do you feel you have the staffing needed going forward, or can you see it where there's growth in this?
No, thanks for the question. And I think both of those points exist, I think, at the same time. So currently we have the staffing we need, but if we're using the stats that we're using the software to create a true baseline of the files that are coming in 2025. And I think we're going to keep the same staff complement for 2026. And then if we see the trend continuing to rise, we will need to probably make a business case to bring in another legal member on our team, whether that's a lawyer or paralegal, because the goal is we have set the bar high and we take pride in that every single day. So we don't want to sacrifice reliable legal services or that response time. So I think as of now, we're using that software really to create these trends of determining how quickly we can turn these files around, and we're being realistic about it. But I think if it's going in the direction it's going, we will need to inevitably expand the team, but that will likely be a 2027 ask. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? I just want to echo Councillor Rob's comments that the CAOs that I've spoken to are extremely pleased with the turnaround in the service, and we really appreciate it. And I was also thinking the capacity question. So I'm glad that you're on top of that and you've set ambitious targets for the coming year. I do have one question. In assisting you with meeting and exceeding goals, is there a confident stream where you could use AI? Because I know a lot of law firms are to help with capacity, or, well, anyway, I'll let you speak to that.
No, it's a great question, and it's a completely new area that it's expanding every single day. And I mean, we have great peers here in IT and legislative service to help us vet AI programs. Like AI programs do exist to perhaps create base templates that are trusted that we could kind of rinse and repeat for a lot of our local staff, because like for example planning and development agreements, they're for the most part of the same bones to it. Also, we could probably explore AI as the year goes, and we could explore trusted resources to help that. And I think utilizing the software that I was talking about even more, and potentially investing in training to really make the most of it, because I still think we're scratching the surface with it, where I think we can use that software to maybe generate better data for us to build on and meet the needs of our locals. So I think between the software we have and exploring AI, I think that could help save some time for sure.
Good. Happy to hear that. Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, thank you. That was a really good one. So moving on to financial services, really this budget, I would say it's status quo, and it reflects our organizational changes with a new director of finance and some of that organizational churn. But nothing status quo about it. The financial services team has been working extremely hard to present financial information in a different way to county council and our senior leadership team and ITS and the whole senior leadership team, but ITS especially has been working closely to facilitate those changes. So I would say we're 50% of the way there, and we still got a way to go with modernization in a few ways we do things. But everyone's really excited about it, and they've done great, and I just want to give them another shout out. Within this budget, I think is an opportunity for us to highlight as staff some of the ways we're just doing things a little differently in regards to transparency. So you'll notice the levy on financial services is up almost $450,000. And we'd just like to walk through and point out why that is the case. So number one, again, a little shift in lowering MLPS recoveries. But the big one is the elimination of the use of proceeds. So historically, within the financial services budget, there would be use of proceeds utilized to keep down the overall levy. So we've completely eliminated that from financial services. And then additionally, the overall expense is significantly higher, or total budget is higher, because we're showing the full interest income roll through the budget. So we're showing 1.68 million come in, and then we're showing the transfer of 850 to the reserve to be funded into those reserve funds, and then those bank account interest income funds being utilized to as a revenue source. So previously, you would see that number as budgeted at 630,000. What we're trying to do in this service area, in every service area, is show every penny that rolls through the county, so county council has line of sight on that. No change in how anything's done financially in regards to actually funding stuff, just line of sight on every penny that comes through the county. And then the biggest drivers in this service area are obviously MPAC assessment services. So in accordance with provincial legislation, MPAC bills every upper tier and single tier municipality for the provision of MPAC services. And so the county gets the luxury of paying that for all of our municipalities within the county. And it jumped cumulatively now just under 100,000. So a relatively significant impact. And then because the Chris's and David and our team does such a great job with our insurance and managing that program. We also took a little bit out of the deductible account to more match our rolling claims history. And then we also have a reserve that backstops that for insurance deductible. So those are the high level changes within the financial services department. And within financial services, there's a subsidiary department of procurement services. And that's Josh and Stephen, who have been doing a remarkable job with procurement. And I know they're working with a lot of our local municipalities as well. And I feel like we can confidently say their services have found us cost efficiencies that absolutely pay for that entire department with the amount of procurements we do throughout the year. So happy to answer any questions you may have on financial services or procurement services.
Any questions? Councillor Grantham.
No, just a comment, Chair. I have some, I gotta get my head around them first. To be honest, I'm used to straight lines, right? And the variances over the year, I'm used to 2%, 4% changes. So to watch the roller coaster, because I do have some questions regarding financial services, but I'll formulate them better because I'm looking at the trends, right?
Yeah.
just to remind everybody, the actuals are actually as at September, the end of September, so there's still another quarter that needs to be put in there. Counselor Smiber, did you have a question? I'll let you go ahead at this time.
Okay, great, thank you. My question is about MPAC. I know that you'd indicated, Paul, that.
Sorry, we can't hear you. Just give us 2 seconds.
Okay,
We'll crank up the volume.
Should be good now, Michelle.
Okay,
Okay,
give it a
thank
go
you.
now, please.
thank you. My question relates to MPAC. Paul, you'd indicated that the invoice for this year is an increase in MPAC service costs. Did you get a heads up on that, or did they provide a rationale as to why they're looking for an increase for 2026?
Yeah, no, through you, it's there. Not really a lot of discourse on that one. It's just sort of an invoice that comes, and it came after we had posted the budget. So we had budgeted like approximately $50,000 increase in there, and it came in at 98. So not a lot of discourse or reasoning for that. And I know there's a lot of consternation about the assessment cycle has been frozen for an extended period of time. How do costs continue to escalate? But not a lot of clarity on that. So no.
Okay, thank you.
And if I may, just to understand what you're saying, and there would be a few service areas where there is a roller coaster, and that really reflects this like point in time change. So on a go forward, if there's a massive variance, we should be able to say there's a specific reason for this. In this budget this year, there's a lot of them across a lot of service areas because you historically weren't presented a budget that looked like this, and you weren't presented a budget that showed every single penny and how it flows through, right? There was nothing wrong with how it was done historically, but what we've tried to do is give you line of sight. So that's why on the interest income line, you see an increase of just over $1 million. That's why you see the use of proceeds drop by 600,000. So as we evolve the way we communicate and present financial information, there's going to be line items this year where you see that. There may be next year because it takes a cycle to flush some of that stuff out, but this year should be the biggest year with those large swings.
So is it fair, just the point you made about the interest income? It was captured, well, maybe it was realized but not reported in the same line that the interest previous was just on the bank account, whereas the investment portfolio wasn't in that number. So maybe that adds some clarity.
Yeah, and
Counselor?
if I may on that one, just if you do look at that interest income line, obviously staff cannot alter an approved budget. So that's why the 2025 budget number shows 630,000. But if you look at the 23, 24, and 25 actuals, we are able to show that total number. And that's why it reflects very much in line with what the 2026 budget is. So it's just aligning that. Apologies for interrupting you there.
Okay, Councillor Grantham.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and everybody here. I won't say this will be the last newbie question I'll ask. You may get a whole bunch more, but the 2025 actuals, they're year to date. They're not annualized. Am I correct?
Through till the end of September.
Yeah, we did not do projections.
So
They
you
are
didn't
to
do
the
pro-
end of
Okay,
September.
so those are just year to date. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I'd just like to give Ewa and her team a shout out because this is a lot easier to read. There's a lot more clarity in this budget, and I for one, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of the committee, we really appreciate it. And also, Josh isn't here, but I'm only hearing positive things from all the municipalities on the procurement service and the savings and the efficiencies. So we really appreciate that.
We'll make sure him and Steven hear that. I feel like they're likely watching. Next up is facilities, and facilities has similar to financial services, a bit of swings in it, and we'll walk through that. So largely that deals with the county building that Steve oversees, and then also we roll through our MLPS lease recoveries here. So these bylaws that council has entered into. And I think if you look at 2025, here's another example of those variances for Councillor Grantham. So in 2025, we showed lease revenues of 370,000 and no transfer to capital. So we were utilizing $370,000 of MLPS lease revenues within the county budget to offset levy. That wasn't really the intent of those, but it was ultimately approved. So in 2026, you look at that MLPS lease recoveries line and it matches to the penny with the transfer to capital. And the reason it is a transfer to capital is because headquarters, Dorchester, Trafalgar, and then 340 Waterloo and ultimately Trossachs in the future are set up as capital projects with a negative balance. And then over time, those revenues pay those back. So that is, again, trying to show all the MLPS lease revenues coming back into the facilities budget. And then largely across here, Steve and the team just tried to get aggressive and reduce overall expenditures as we look to move out of here operationally in November towards the end of the year. And then as we look forward to 2027, we'll obviously lose the parking revenue that we've been receiving for the past few years to the tune of about $70,000. So just to plant that seed. And then human services within some of the funding envelopes, we have the ability to charge for space. So that continues on throughout this budget. So happy to answer any questions you may have on that.
Okay, any questions on that category? See Michelle up there. We lost Michelle. Okay, okay.
Okay. Next up, we have Middlesex County Connect. And I think just before we go into the numbers on this, Anum and Kara have done exceptional work. I think when we transitioned to the OTIF model, it was great to get the funding, but to make it come to fruition and get all the partners on board and get a financial picture that was reasonable to County Council was moving mountains. And now the county's really positioned to be a leader in Ontario on inter-community transit. So kudos to Kara and Anum on that. Very exciting. So really this just reflects the evolution from a fully funded provincial program under the community transportation grant to a 50-50 cost share under the OTIF. So you can see the way the OTIF has been structured is higher contribution from the province in year one that tails down as the service enhances over the 5 years. You can see partner recoveries. So that's from the City of London, the City of St. Thomas, and the City of Sarnia in the first year, and then fare revenue. And then Anum and Kara and Dimitri, who will be taking over in the interim while Anum's on mat leave, will be working very diligently to ensure we get provincial gas tax funding, which will also help further offset those costs. And they're doing a bunch of really exciting things with transit-related industry and some of the businesses. So the team's done a remarkable job to bring this to fruition, and this budget just reflects that reality. Happy to answer any questions, and I know Kara can as well.
Any questions on that? I think it's great that we're taking a leadership role because we're not maybe going to see the benefits directly, but we have to set the table for down the road if we want to encourage business attraction, specifically industrial, to the area. So thank you to the team. Paul?
Thank you. I guess very briefly, if there is a theme, it's sort of modernization, continued modernization. I think we did accomplish some key items last year. We updated the Woodlands Conservation Bylaw, which was due, quantified the asset that is the county-owned forest, transitioned to a new GIS server. A lot of that stuff sort of happens behind the scenes, but it is a significant undertaking. Looking ahead, we are looking to continue that, including digital processes, working with our local municipalities, working with other departments, and that's already been mentioned by others. Also, the development of the growth tracking model. And while the budget does emphasize technology, for our department, in the end, our primary strength really is our staff. And so we are proposing to maintain our existing staffing levels. Budget service updates. We have been limping through with our plotter, and with the move to the new location, we would propose that we time that with the purchase. And then you've heard me many times say that the OLT, or Ontario Land Tribunal, hearings are a challenge. I think we're over the worst of it, but there is still a budget item set aside for that. We continue to work with external and internal legal on that. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Dirk? Okay, Paul?
Through you, Chair. I'm happy to provide information regarding the Economic Development and Tourism budget for 2026. As you know, we've done a concerted effort alongside with Council and our team here to concentrate our efforts on ensuring the diversification of tax, to really strengthen our resolve together with our local municipalities in terms of our business retention and expansion efforts, as well as increasing our regional and provincial collaboration to attract new investment. That includes aligning our tourism initiatives and advancing county-wide economic development strategies. We're in the process, as you know, of completing the move to the primary operations center. So we'll be reducing in 2026 our reliance on leased facilities. We're also completing a new economic development strategic plan, the survey for which has just been completed and engaged a total of 65 stakeholder groups and partners. And so that process is underway, as well as ramping up our staff to the levels that were expected for 2025, and to ensuring that we are able to facilitate all of the initiatives that we have promised. So with that, the 2026 budget does not look too much different in terms of what it was in 2025, except for the fact that we will have our staffing levels, obviously, for the annual term, as opposed to being staggered in. As I noted, there is the reduction of leased office space that's now been removed from the budget. The biggest change that we will be seeing is the implementation of the countywide community improvement support program to help our local municipalities in advancing housing, downtown revitalization, and economic development goals. We're also working very diligently together with our CAO on the implementation of the loan programs, both for the infrastructure enhancements to industrial lands, as well as the newly proposed program, which will allow for feasibility studies and other preparatory pieces with respect to the readying of our industrial lands and diversification. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions, Councillor Grantham?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And again, Paul, and this is one that I had highlighted earlier, just for the trend, right? 'Cause I know we compare to budget, but I'm looking at the trend to actual. So when I look from 2023 to the proposed budget for next year, it's almost a $500,000 leap. So when we get more granular, I'm going to ask about that one in particular, but that's where I was looking at the trend actual to budget 2023. So nothing on this one in particular at this point, just to point out this one jumped out.
Yeah, I think there is something to point out on this, just as a reminder, right? County Council approved a full year budget for 2025, but then with our CAO transition, interim CAO, and then deferral of a lot of initiatives. So the 2025 budget actually contemplated the full year of additional staffing. Both models that were approved by council originally contemplated an additional lease. And I think you recall in July, when Dirk was serving as interim, he sent out an email that just said, we'll defer the ultimate consideration of any ECDEV items. There was the facility, the staffing, and the model until the new CAO was in place. And then in September 9th, I believe, we came with that comprehensive report, and County Council provided the direction to proceed and finalize implementation of the model. So ECDEV will definitely at year end have a significant surplus because Kara was directed to delay in doing all those initiatives. And if you really think about that report, I believe went to committee of the whole. So then it wasn't approved by council until the end of September. And then you go to operationalize those things. The two staff, and then ultimately one of our staff members went to backfill a NUM's position. So they weren't in place till just now. So instead of having a full 12 months of costs for a lot of the elements of economic development, you might get one or two. So, and that's really a reflection of being responsive to the direction of council for this year. But Dirk did highlight that in July as well, and happy to address any specific lines. But I think that's one we can point out right now. And then, you know, if you look at the overall change in expense for this, it's actually nominal because of the way some of the programs have changed. When you look at, for an expense, the CISP as a standalone was an increase of 230,000 to this service area. So again, happy to answer any questions, but that's sort of that context on a larger scale.
I just have one question. I noticed for 2026, you haven't budgeted any grants. And in the past, you were extremely successful getting them, especially in 2023. I wonder if you can speak to that.
So through you, Chair, thank you for the question. There is an expectation of granting for 2026. Some of the timeframes have changed with respect to some of the granting programs that we do apply for. We have a current application into the new broad program, which was previously known as the Rural Economic Development Program. So that is related specifically to workforce, a project. The Workforce Navigator project has been proposed by the Middlesex Workforce Development Partnership. We're awaiting our word on that. We also will be applying as well to Can Export. That's our Global Affairs Partnership Program, which we've been very successful in achieving over the course of the years that we have been engaged in investment attraction. So that as well as planned. Aside from that, grants expected for this year will be for project-related costs, things like our Hands to Table project. I believe there was a proposal of around $60,000. I'm not sure where it's sitting in the new framework.
If I may just support Kara on this one, yeah, historically we broke them down federal, provincial, and then other. This year, just because of the uncertainty around those programs, we grouped them as that 78.5 under sponsorship and grants.
Thank you for clarifying. I just want to make sure we're not leaving anything on the table, and I didn't know if it was you didn't want to count your chickens before they hatched, so to speak. So I was looking at more of the breakdown. And the sponsorships were, without getting too granular there. Anyway, I'll leave that for now. Okay.
All right, through the chair, I'm just going to go over some quick departmental opportunities for the ITS department. Marcy mentioned electronic document management during hers. We've got a huge push on to move as much to our electronic document management system as possible. Through this system, we're able to add additional automations and workflows, and it's already helping to reduce manual processes across all departments. One really great example of this is our new accounts payable process. As of January 2026, every single invoice that comes into the county, Strathmere Lodge, or MLPS will be going through this accounts payable system. And it's really just creating a easy way to find things, an easy way to flow through approvals, and really creating a lot of efficiencies across all departments. We're going to work to continue strengthening data governance and analytics. We really want to drive data-based decision-making and transparency for all of our service areas. We've already been successful in that in a lot of respects, but I think we can do more. So we're really going to be pushing to that. The biggest change in terms of the actual budget numbers here is the removal of cost recovery from human services. That accounts for about 95,000 of the increase this year. And that was a review with Paul and Joe based off some provincial funding program alterations. So we made that change this year, and that was really the biggest impact for the ITS department. The other increases, which were fairly small compared to the 95,000 there, are coming from cybersecurity enhancements. Licensing costs continue to go up, unfortunately. I feel like a broken record over the last 3-4 years. I've mentioned this every time, but every single year, our licensing costs just continue to go up, and we're really kind of bound by those licensing renewals that we really can't get away from. And there has been some cost increases to some of our internet connections across the county at some of our locations, as we need to continually increase the available amount of bandwidth so that staff can be able to do their work when they need to. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Grantham?
Just, Chris, you increased to the lower tier municipalities at 3%. What went into your calculation? I know you had labor increases. Do you parse off some of the costs for licensing and all of that too?
The 3% increase is built into our service agreements with each of the local municipalities. In terms of any licensing costs, hardware renewal costs, things like that, those are completely separate from those recoveries. How we manage those is any purchases made for a lower tier municipality are made and billed directly to them. It doesn't actually flow through this budget. So when you look at the recovery line items or the revenues from each of the lower tiers, those are directly related to the service agreement. And any purchases of licensing, hardware, anything like that is completely separate and outside of our budget.
Thank you. Do you have anything, Brian? I know you did. Okay. I guess I just have one overall, I kind of feel like your department's like the OPP. It's non-discretionary, especially when we're talking cybersecurity and such. But I'm just wondering, all of the software that we use, whether within the county, is it all all those subscriptions, are we actually using them?
This question comes up most years as well. Every time we go to renew a software, any of our software, we do an assessment with the department head to ensure that the licenses that department has are being used fully. So a good example is Microsoft licensing. We have 500 something licenses. So every time before we do a renewal, we make sure to review and ensure that all of those licenses are being used. In terms of specific software packages, there's definitely some opportunities to use some of those more fully. But I will say there's nothing that we are licensed for that we just aren't using at all. But there's definitely some opportunities for enhancements and increased usage on some of our software packages. But we have been pushing towards that with multiple departments. So
That's great to hear. Thank you very much. Councillor Rob?
Yeah, I changed my mind. Chris, last year or the year before, we increased the cost to lower tiers to make it full cost recovery. Are we at that point now?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think the redo of the service agreements based off of, it was a lot of data that we pulled in. I think we are at full cost recovery with the local municipalities now, that 3% increase. You will notice there was a bit of a bigger jump with North Middlesex on here. That's because North Middlesex is now going to be hosting your infrastructure inside of the county data center. So that's why there's that pretty large 44% increase on the North Middlesex side. And what we've historically done over the past 5 years is, as physical hardware at a local municipality is up for renewal, we bring that into the county data center. The reason for that is it's much more affordable. We're able to take advantage of economies of scale. So we have a system that allows us to scale up. So, just an example there, that $17,000 variance on the North Middlesex line item. If North Middlesex was to purchase all of their own equipment, you probably would have been closer to 30 or 35,000. So North Middlesex is the last one. So as of 2026, when we complete that project, every local municipality will have their data center hosted within our infrastructure, completely segmented from a cybersecurity perspective. So they're kind of in their own silos, but it's all under the same kind of umbrella. So,
Okay, thank you. Just to follow up to that, if I can, it really wasn't about seeing that larger number. It was really because it's important that it's a full cost recovery, because we do provide I think it's an excellent service to the lower tiers. Also, MLPS and, other places and to the Strathmere Lodge as well. I think it's important that we have that. And it is from the lower tier budgeting as well. There's no surprises. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, Paul.
Joe, you're up.
Perfect. Thanks very much. So if you look at our 2026 budget for human services, you can see that some of our budget has looked different. We have definitely consolidated some of our lines, especially when it looks in childcare, and moved other of our lines to the new area called, as Paul said, the community well-being and support initiatives. Most of our programs are provincially funded. While some of the administration dollars are 100%, there are some costs shared 50-50 with a cap to at a certain level for each of the departments. When we look at the opportunities for 2026, we are definitely looking to increase our connections between our programs to ensure that the client experience is seamless. We have been experiencing a lot of changes in our provincial guidelines through Ontario Works. The stability supports are increasing, so it's changes in our integrated employment services, our centralized intake, and now even with accelerated referrals through Employment Ontario. So lots of changes in OW for childcare. Fundamental changes on how we provide funds to our licensed childcare centers. So we've been working with our finance team to really understand that and to support our local childcare centers. EDM, electronic document management, seems to be another theme across the board here. We are focusing on that to definitely be a priority in 2026 so that we become fully digital before our move. And just as a whole, when it comes to our programs, we want to make sure the path is clear and easy to follow for clients, the community partners, but also for our local communities and local municipalities so that we can make sure, again, that the services are seamless. When we look at that and we look at the partnerships, so really it's our biggest lever to expand our impact. We'll continue to work closely and in different ways with our local municipalities, our community partners to strengthen our homelessness responses, the increase in affordable housing options, and to make sure that we build the local service capacity. Then we look at the data systems. It will help us make smarter and faster decisions. So we continue to use and enhance the use of tools like HIFIS, which is the Homeless Individuals and Families Information System, which will help us better support and tracking, clearer performance outcomes, and more targeted initiatives across both homelessness prevention, but also the Ontario Works Department. When we look at some of the key service area updates, so in children's services, so as Paul mentioned, we are working with our library partners, so Lindsay and Nadine, as we expand access to our early on programming. So with this, the intent is to have 150 program opportunities projected across the year with over 3,000 children visits annually, with it's about a cost for about $18.80 per child per visit. So the evening and weekends will be offered over the 6 locations that are offered in early on. And it definitely aligns with our needs in the childcare and earlier service plan. You'll see that there was a $60,000 increase in requests for early on specifically. If you look through the budget itself, childcare as a whole, the biggest increase would be our admin dollars. It's increased by 63%. With the new funding model through the province, all of our administration costs did change. Last year, the city did cover some of the costs for us, and this year they have said those are our costs that we will have to incur this year. So that's where that biggest change comes. And then when we look at the community well-being and supports initiatives, as we all know, the steady increase in the number of individuals looking for directions and supports. So the Ontario Works case managers, community navigators, community case assistants, and community partners are often stepping in more as financial and social pressures deepen. And to meet these needs, we have broken down the programs into different line items. So it's not just other programs, it is all under that community well-being and supports. And you will see that there were some increase in some of the budgets. So one of the new line items is newcomer and immigrant supports. So I sit on the London Middlesex Local Immigration Partnership Committee. And that's one thing that we have noticed or we understand and know throughout our community. It continues to expand with our newcomer and immigrant population. So we want to make sure that our programs are specific to that population and we meet that need in the county. So, putting that money in there is to ensure that Middlesex continues to be an inclusive and welcoming community. The other programs, so there aren't real drastic changes to our budgets in Ontario Works, homelessness prevention or housing. You'll see that the housing amount for last year was around 5 million and the request is still at 7 million. The city has indicated that with London Middlesex community housing changes, that there could be an increase in the budget for that amount. So we want to make sure that we have the budgeted amount there. But we are also, I'm also in conversations with the city to really break down what is the budget for housing and what are we paying for and what services are we able to access. So throughout 2026, you will see, I will be bringing back some more information around housing, and the City of London will be coming to talk about their housing programs as well to council. So, in 2026, we're also going to be doing a full review of our department staffing needs and the programs that are being delivered. So the challenges that we're facing are unfortunately only going to increase, and we want to be sure that we are ready to meet the need. That's it. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Okay, thank you, Joel. Any questions? Councillor Grantham.
Thank you. And CEO, I'm glad to see that Human Services is, for better word, off on their own. So I think this is a very important topic. I think it's going to become even more important as we progress, because the word we've all used is urbanization in the county. So I know my own municipalities, specifically in Strathroy, the need for these services is growing exponentially. So when we do, I know we're gonna have an opportunity to talk about these at a greater level. I'm gonna have more questions about the dollars we spend on people. I know we spend a lot of money, and we should, on bridges and culverts, but I think there's become an increasing need for human services. And I have some specific questions, like on the homeless prevention. I see that's more or less stagnant. And I'm going to ask about that. I think it's great we spend all the dollars on the early on, because that's needed. But increasingly, we're seeing pressures, and I think we all are, on homelessness. And I think Joe may know this. Hopefully, by the end of this, well, it won't be the end of this year, the first quarter, a lot of Middlesex housing will have a recommendation for new housing development. So hopefully we're prepared for that. However, we have to spend that money. But when we get to the point where I can ask more questions about human services, I think, so the question I would ask would be a loaded one of Joe. Is this a minimum budget, or I'm getting the loaded part? I'm quite sure if he had more money, he could do more. And my question is going to be, what could you do, without budgetary? Obviously, we have budgetary constraints, but I just want to highlight to everyone, this is increasingly in our communities becoming an important topic. And I think we need to put more dollars at it where appropriate.
I'm gonna tackle that one before Joe gets that one. I would offer the following commentary. If we go back to, staff were given direction to prepare the budget in accordance with maintaining current levels of service, right? So Joe and his team, I just had the opportunity to go and meet with them at their team meeting, do a remarkable job. They're empathetic and compassionate and stretching every dollar we have, but we are subject to the CMSM agreements, and that's how our housing number comes through. That's how our HPP comes through. That's how all those dollars are allocated through to us. So I would say Joe and his team are stretching every dollar we have right now. and also are advocating to the province for enhancements to specific programs to go further. But to go beyond the CMSM agreements and start pumping county levy into those areas would require direction from county council to formally attack those service areas where we are not the CMSM differently. So that's where that would come down. But this budget is Joe and his team maximizing every single dollar we have. And then to the credit of Lindsay and her team as well as it comes to early on. So that's where that delineation exists.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Michelle, go ahead.
Just making sure that you can hear me.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, okay. Just to follow on what Councillor Grantham was saying, this isn't, I know that the county does a really good job of making sure that our residents are getting the services that they need. This isn't really budget related, but when it comes to Ontario Works and the benefits that the province has identified that each person should get, we know in London, Middlesex, it's low. For some reason, our cost of living in our region is higher than some other places within the province. Do we have any idea at all if those Ontario Works amounts will be increasing in the next year or two, or if that's being reviewed?
Thanks. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Councillor Smiver, for the question. And just so everybody really understands, the maximum amount a single individual on Ontario Works can receive is $733. And out of that $733, $390 is what is intended to use for shelter, and $343 is what their basic needs are. So as we all know, the cost of everything of living has gone up. So Michelle, that's a great question, and it is something that we advocate from our department to the province. It is provincial dollars and provincial levels that are being set, so we don't really have a strong say in what that is. What we do is, as Paul said, is we do try to maximize our dollars in other ways through homelessness prevention, through discretionary benefits, through our participation related expenses to help mitigate some of those costs and some of those challenges. But really, what we need to look at in the county more is Councillor Grantham had mentioned is affordable housing. We need to ensure that the residents of our communities have the access to that, because that's where we're going to see the biggest impact going forward.
Yeah, they're all great comments. Brian, go ahead.
Thank you. This all brings up a great point to, we have to, I think, work very hard to continue to work hard on getting our fair share, for lack of a better term. And talking with Minister Flack, he understands that. And we're going to see this again in the, when we talk about, when we talk to youth as well, the funding level is lower than our neighbors. And the need is certainly not lower. And it's, I think, to your point, for more dollars, Colin, we really have to work hard and continue to work hard to increase that level, because the health unit is one of the lower funded. I mean, we've done delegations, which sometimes you feel you've wasted your 15 minutes, but we have to keep preaching that message. And to Paul's point about what Joe's doing and what the team is doing with the money they have, I think they do a great job. But I really think we have to put extra pressure on at the provincial level to get our funding up where it needs to be, because it's so far below.
Yeah, I mean, they're all great points. We have to be at the table and we have to keep asking, and we're not going away.
Right.
So I think that the province needs to understand that we're going to continue hammering on that door. So, yeah.
I think if it's all right to keep the topic going, and so we don't make our friends from the health unit wait all day, we slide that.
Well,
in
yeah,
right now.
so maybe if I could indulge everybody. Yeah, so Alex, Dr. Summer, I don't know how you'd like to be addressed, but Dr. Summer's here from the health unit. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
That's okay. It's Emily Williams.
That's right. Emily Williams is with him. So I'd like to turn the mic over to you if you just want to give us some Coles notes, you know, what your challenges are and if you have any asks for us, and I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. And through the chair, thank you for having us here today. You've touched on the provincial funding situation in other aspects. For us at the health unit, our base funding has been subject to 1% increase for the last 3 years. We don't have visibility to 2027, but for 24, 25, and 26, it was 1% to our base funding. That is on top of a structural deficit. As already mentioned, we are the second lowest funded health unit in the province when you take per capita funding into account. We have restructured, we've reduced FTE 22.5 over the last several years, as well as undertaken zero-based budgeting for our general expenses. We've changed our model of operating. As you know, we've recently closed our Strathroy main office as another way to save costs. We truly have appreciated the co-advocacy, our delegations to the province, for sustainable, equitable, and sufficient funding for the Middlesex London Health Unit. But because our board does not want to see further decreases to staff or public health programs and services, they did approve an 8.9% increase to the municipal contributions for 2026. As well, in addition to that, the board has supported us requesting assistance from the City of London and County Council to pay down our debt. We had fixed and variable loans related to the fit up of our City Plaza office location. I can confirm that City Council did approve their portion of that during budget deliberations earlier this month, but that request has also been put forward to the county. We're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Emily. I'll turn it over to Paul. I think in principle, anyway, you can speak to it and I'll let you do that.
Yeah, Emily and Dr. Summers have been great, invited me over and went through all this beforehand and have been really proactive. And I think we just want to speak about how we did prepare the budget because of how data driven and proactive the health unit is. Administratively, we're big supporters of what the health unit does, how it has community impact. So how we prepared the budget for you is the full ask of the health unit, and specifically as it pertains to that one-time funding, we included that in there. And this is one location where we repositioned the use of proceeds that had been historically used just to keep the levy down. It makes perfect sense when you think about what the use of proceeds was actually from, the old health unit building. So that's included within the health unit budget as the mechanism to fund that one-time payment. So that is that transfer from reserves for that. And ultimately, you know, ask away all the questions, but from an administrative perspective, I think we're lockstep with the health unit and what they're trying to do here and how they work with us to make a difference in the community.
Yeah, and just simply wearing a banker's hat, the use of proceeds, it made sense. So I think it was, I'm happy to see it in the budget because it aligns. So I'm pleased to see that. Any other comments? Okay, oh yeah, Councillor Grantham, go ahead.
Sorry, I said there'd only be a couple newbie questions, but anyways. Alex and Emily, thank you. And I'm aware, Councillor Ropp, of the underfunding of the health unit. And I think what's happened is sad for the county. I'm the mayor of Strathroy with my other hat. The closing of the unit in the office there hurt our community. I heard a lot about it, but I'm certainly aware of the funding pressures, and sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So it is what it is, but if we can ever get it back, not just for Strathroy, but for the county, because that was the only presence in the county. And I'm, you know, two of my colleagues here are on the western edge like I am. So I know there are no caveats to the loan repayment. Hopefully it's on the radar that someday, somehow, somewhere we can reopen an office in the county. You know, we will continue, as Councilor Ropp says, to advocate for the health unit, do whatever we can. But I don't want it to get lost that at one time there was an office in the county. And as things progress and go along, it just to become a forgotten memory, if you will, wherever it is. I believe the health unit needs a presence in the county. So that's my soapbox, if you will, but that's important to me that we get that presence back.
I could just briefly through you, Warden. Very appreciate the comments and we are certainly committed to retaining that memory as we look towards ongoing service provision in the county. The critical variable in all of this that I know council is aware of is that a vast majority of the services that we provide, not only in the city, but in the county, continue within the schools when we're delivering immunization and dental services, in the restaurants, in the pools, and the water systems. Our work is in the community more than it is in our office space. And over the course of the next year, it's our hope to bring to our board an update on service delivery in the county, period, just to provide everybody some context on that. But as those services continue, we'll continue to remember the legacy of that Strathroy site and certainly be mindful that as populations grow and change and as funding realities do as well, we should always be reviewing where we have physical office spaces, not only in Strathroy, but throughout the region. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Rob.
Thank you, Warden. Just further to that, I did have the opportunity to speak with Josh Morgan before they went to budget, and we did discuss this. And I had said to him at that time that I said, I'm in favor of doing this, of paying this, because we don't want to lose more services. Absolutely. I said, but it hasn't gone to our committee yet, hasn't gone to budget yet, but I'm certainly in favor of it. The other possibility, rather than bricks and mortar, is we have a library system. And, you know, can it be utilized and more done through the library system where you're not having to pay for bricks and mortar, you know, as much, and just provide the service. And so, yeah, just want to make that comment.
Well, and on that note, yeah, Lindsay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the water sampling now done? For example, at the Strathroy Library, you can pick up a sample bottle there, just as an example.
Yes, exactly. We have that in a number of locations. And as well, most recently, just a couple weeks ago, a team from Alberta has reached out about, kind of learning more about our spaces, program rooms, bookable offices, to see what opportunities exist there.
Thank you. Because it's not just Strathroy Caradoc, like there's Adelaide Metcalfe, there's surrounding communities that it was a valuable service. So if it can just be looked at, to your point, a different way and delivered out of a building that we already have, perhaps there's a way to work around there. So yeah. I appreciate you guys coming today. That's great to hear from you and to see you. And I'll turn the meeting back over to Paul.
We've pending, Councillor Smybert has a question, but I think.
Sorry, Michelle, go ahead. Councillor Smybert, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to echo what Dr. Summers said in terms of the presence in the community. It's more in the offering of those programs. And I can certainly say that when the health unit delivers those programs, they do wear that county lens just as much as they take a look at what the city needs as well. So I just thought it was really important to note that sometimes that physical presence, I know, Councilor Grantham, that's what you want to see within the county, but we do see that through the delivery of their programs and services. And I think that's really what's most important. And unfortunately, we just can't afford the capital outlay for that physical infrastructure within the county.
Thank you. Just because we've got our biggest budget or second biggest budget coming up, I think we'll take a 10-minute break if that's okay. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, could we just make sure we go around, and if there's no more questions, we'd likely let our friends from the health unit go back if there's no other questions, but it sounds
Sure,
like
I didn't
everyone's
see any
good.
more, but last call for questions for the health unit. They're only a phone call away too, so we know that. Yeah, got you on speed dial. So, okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess and come back for the bigger numbers, I guess we'll say.